Welcome, Sareka. I am so excited to finally be talking to you, and I'm so grateful to you for joining me for the Virtual Art Summit. So I'm going to just get to know you because I don't know you very well, except for I know your beautiful art and very colorful art when it comes through my feed. So how are you today?
I'm good. Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to be here and really excited to share.
So tell me where you live, because I don't even know that much. I'm so sorry.
No, it's fine. I live in Ypsilanti, Michigan. It's like not far from Ann Arbor. Most people know Ann Arbor.
Uh-huh.
It's between Ann Arbor and Detroit. It's a little town outside of Ann Arbor that's similar to Ann Arbor, but it has its own creative feel to it.
Is it cold there right now?
We've been dancing between cold and wanting to get warm. Like
Yeah.
we've had a couple ice storms and we got some snow, which we haven't. It's been a very mild winter compared, to other years. So
For us
can't
too.
complain, but I am ready for warmer weather. I'm like, I just want to feel the sun on my skin. Like that's it.
So how do you keep yourself busy through the cold winter days? Do you get to spend all of your time painting? Is it your full-time work, or is it
Well, I was working in I was a designer for a home decor company. I was a product designer. So I was doing that for a while. And then back in 2001, I left my job to pursue my artwork full time. But in the meantime, I'm so busy all the time. I have a lot of things that I have my hands in. I also am a marketing manager for a couple of small businesses as well. So
okay?
that takes up quite a bit of my time, more than I expected it to do. Like it's kind of grown and it just keeps growing. And I'm like, wait, I'm just supposed to be doing art now. But I love that too. So
Yeah.
it works out.
Why don't we just start like how you became an artist in the first place? I mean, so 2001, that's long enough time now that you've got a lot of years under your belt being an artist and creating as your main focus of income.
Yeah, so I've always been creative my whole life. But when I went to school, I kind of went for graphic design. So I have a graphic design illustrator background. Sorry if you see my my dog popped in.
Oh, we love dogs. It's
He
okay.
just came down the stairs and he's like, "Who are you talking to down here?"
I know. And mine are out there whining because when they can hear me, they're like, "Oh, but mom's here, so we can whine at her." And I'm like, "Oh."
Exactly. Exactly. But yeah, so I have a graphic design background in surface. I got into doing surface pattern design, I say about 2016, 14, somewhere around there between 14 and 15. And for a long time, I didn't think that I was a painter. Like I didn't even really want to call myself an artist because I was like, oh, I'm a designer, I'm an illustrator, I'm all these things in the design world, but I'm not an artist. But I kept getting I kept feeling a tug in my heart to try painting, but I just kept pushing it off and ignoring it for a little bit. And just one day I was just like, you know what, I've got this little, they have the little paint sets that come. I was like, I'm gonna play around with it. And then from there it just grew to me wanting better paint and bigger canvases. And I just haven't stopped painting ever since. And that was probably around 2017 that I actually started painting. But I've been doing graphic design and illustration for a long time prior to that.
So that piece behind you, I have to say, is quite gorgeous. I love your use of color, and that's why it stands out so much to me in the feed and whatnot. And I don't know, there's something really exciting about how you put it together. But I saw some sort of a storefront. Do you sell your work in a gallery or in a decor shop or something?
Yeah, so there's a few places around Ypsilanti. There's a store called Stone and their sister store is Stone and Spoon, but there's Unicorn Feed and Supply, which is a very fun name. It's a very fun, colorful store. They carry stickers and notebooks I've created.
Mm-hmm.
And then in Ann Arbor, there's a store called Four Directions where they sell a lot of my paintings and my prints. They mainly sell a lot of like rocks and jewels and jewelry and gifting of that nature. So it's a lot of fun. And this piece behind me was actually just on exhibit at the University of Michigan Hospital inside of their main lobby area. I had 7 pieces of artwork there. So, and I just bought them all back home. So they're different places around my house. I have a home studio. So.
Yeah, I know. My house is filled too, and it's like it's a museum. It's a overwhelming, like, all right, Mom, do we have to have all of your art on the walls? I'm like, well, I mean, that's the safest place to store it. So
Right. Like, welcome to my gallery of my whole
yeah,
house.
my
Like,
whole house. This is from 2012.
my mom would love for me to store paintings on her walls as well. So
Yeah, well, some of my family members have managed to inherit. Some days I wonder, I'm like, am I giving them a gift or is this the booby prize? But because everyone has different tastes. No, they're usually grateful, but I would imagine like having that artwork in a hospital would be really uplifting for the people who are there. So it's too bad it wasn't a permanent display, but
yeah, it was their gift of arts program, and they switch out every 3 to 4 months, I believe, and
okay.
have other artists throughout the whole hospital. So
That's
yeah.
exciting. So what inspires your work? Like what is it about like the direction that you decided to go with painting? How does it relate maybe to the surface pattern design or surface design, not necessarily pattern, but how
Yeah.
does it relate? And then like that use of color. I'm really curious because it's really hard to use really bright colors and do it well, but you are one of the few people that I see use bright, like the whole rainbow, yet it works really well because most of the time I would say, not quite, but you're like, it's like on point each time. So anyhow, that's my compliment to you because I do love
Oh,
your
thank
work,
you.
but I'm curious how you balance it from like where the inspiration came from, everything that you've learned, and then how you've translated that into your paintings.
Yeah, when I create patterns and stuff, when I first started, everyone would say like your work is so bold and vibrant. So I was using bold colors then as well too. But I noticed like I felt I won't say a little stifled, but the direction of like companies who want to manufacture bright and bold patterns and who I wanted to work with necessarily, maybe that wasn't what was trendy or
Mhm.
so I was just like, but I like it, so I'm gonna keep doing my thing.
I'm so glad you stuck to your own vision. That's important.
Definitely. And so when I started painting, my process with painting is like completely different because it's all intuitive. When I start painting, I have no clue what I'm going to paint. I don't really have an idea of every now and then I have an idea of a composition I might want to start with or how I want to start, playing on the canvas. But I just kind of let it all flow out of me. I guess it's like a more of an intuitive thing. And I
Mhm.
noticed that when I am using a lot of colors, I do try to find colors that are like in between two colors that kind of helps bring them together. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah, well, hopefully people will be able to see this video as well as listen, and then you can see, you're right. You've got kind of a transition by using like a analogous color next to it.
Mhm.
So I like that. Makes sense why it's so harmonious.
Yeah. And I definitely when I'm mixing colors, like I'm not this painting is one of the only paintings that has a lot of red in it. I don't use red a lot. Even when I'm mixing colors, instead of using red, I'll use pink or like and
Yeah,
I love like the variations of like purple it brings out. I just Pink is one of my favorite colors. Turquoise is one of my favorite colors, and you probably see them in all of my paintings. I'm like,
that's great
can't
though.
sometimes I can't help it.
But there is something about that red that looks pink to me because of the way
Mhm.
you've matched it. So it still works great.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
And I'm just inspiration kind of comes from everywhere, like music and just I love home decor. I love beautiful homes. And so my home it's getting pretty colorful up there.
Good.
So I'm inspired by other people that I see around me. And I'm just inspired by just moments, moods, and feelings, kind of. I guess it's kind of hard to describe as a,
Your
abstract
emotions
that
come out, huh?
yeah, it all comes out on canvas. Sometimes I step back and I'm like, what did I just it's like
Well, it's amazing because it would then, if it's a lot of you that's coming out, it would seem that you're a pretty joyful person and happy. However, even our darkest emotions can come out in wild colors. Hence, Vincent van Gogh's colors were bold, and yet he was still struggling. So I don't want to make any assumptions, but from the looks of it, it's a lot of happy emotions.
yeah, for the most part, there's happy emotions. I know the whole pandemic and everything we went through was kind of dark. And during that time, I kind of did a series of paintings with more of like a black, darker background with pops of
Mm.
bright colors. Cause even in the darkness, you can find moments of joy. There was, different situations that people were going through, but you can still find a little bit of happiness or a little bit of just a little bit of joy that comes out of even those dark, crazy situations. Like maybe it's just spending more time with family or, whatever it may be that
Having
came.
a less busy life.
Mm-hmm.
And some of that's carried on. It was also a really challenging year in 2020. But because of the challenge, because of, a real strong attention to rights for Black people or minorities, there was a great movement for, I don't know how else to say this, but like on Instagram, like, let's diversify just who we follow on Instagram. And that's how I found you. And
That's
I was
awesome.
really grateful for that because I have a bigger array of friends and connections and colleagues of all different, like you don't even realize that Instagram is tailoring how like white my feed was. And it's like, no, we really need to find a way to have more diversity. And so I found your Black Girl Magic line and I did my best to shift even how I was looking at things. And so it was really nice because during that time, I made a lot more friends, wider diversity, and I've been able to grow my business with a better viewpoint for more people.
That's awesome. I love that.
Yeah. I mean, I feel, honestly, I feel a little bit ashamed that it took 2020 to make a more aware, because you don't realize how unaware you are until it like smacks you in the face, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
That's
So
with anything. Yeah.
yeah, you're like, I'm a pretty open and accepting person, but it's that like what we learn is that's because I'm coming from a place of real privilege and comfort here. And I want to change that for everyone. And so I always try to turn Virtual Art Summit into a place where I can hear new voices. So even though I don't know you that well, I knew like, I love your art. So I'm going to give it a chance and see if making an art course for our Virtual Art Summit would be something you enjoy. And it's not something you do very often. So I feel very grateful that you said yes. And you're sharing your talent with us. And our theme this year is all about play. So how would you give advice for incorporating play into your work?
Well, I'm so excited to do the course and share because it's a different way of sharing that I've never really tapped into before. A lot of my artwork is play. A lot of times I have this practice where I'll just like grab a sheet of paper and just start playing with marks and not kind of getting out of your head and not really thinking so much. I think it helps loosen you up, and it helps when you go to the canvas to paint. It helps on the different type of marks that you make. And me and my best friend, just last week, we were in Michael's and we were in the pen aisle, and you know how they have the little books that you can test out pens on. One of them was completely finished. And so we flipped through this book and it had all these marks from different people and everyone just, their little scribbles. And I was like, I just love this book so much. It's so beautiful. And then she's like, we should start making our own little mark book. So now we have little sketchbooks that's just for making random marks and just having fun and playing and scribbling on whatever comes to mind. And I'm like, this is going to be so helpful for my art practice because it's just so playful and it helps to loosen me up and it helps me experiment with new mark making techniques.
Make sure you take some photos for that. Then I'm going to put it in the notes of this video because I'm like sitting here going, yeah, I love that. Like I've been obsessed with markers lately, especially acrylic markers because they're opaque and you can layer them and they almost feel like paint. And it's like I'm like making designs and then on the side I'm doodling to like make sure the ink is running. And I'm like, I love those scribble papers are just as beautiful. Like how much fun is that? But I like that idea, like, just making a few marks here and there until they all build up.
And that's part of the
steal a couple of those pages out of Can I just have your book when it's done and it's full, please?
Nope, you have to create your own. I did a flip through of the one at Michael's and I'm like, I want this. Can I have this? Like, and it was just such a mashup of other people doodling on top of other people's work. And so when we got home, she has an 8-year-old, even she got into doing it. And once we worked on it a little bit, we would pass it around the circle. So I would give the 8-year-old mine, I would take my friends, and then we would doodle in it and just keep passing it around. And
oh my gosh, I love it. I love it. There's the most fun, playful way because you don't have control over what the person before you did.
It's a good way to just let go. And then I kept having to remind my friend, I was like, you're thinking too hard. You're thinking too much about it. Because she was like, you've done like 3 pages and I'm still working on this one. I was like, because you're thinking too hard. You just got to keep going. And then if you want to come back and add more to it later, you can. It's not precious. I know sometimes we get so precious with like our sketchbooks and stuff, but this is a different way to just have fun with it. And you get new discoveries and a different way of thinking when it comes to your artwork.
I love it. That is so much fun. So what projects are you working on right now other than the Virtual Art Summit? What else do you have going on like in your art world that people would love to know about? Because we love to peer into other artists' lives and what they get to do and what projects they're working on.
Well, right now I'm hoping to be exhibiting a lot this summer at different art fairs. We have a major art fair that happens in Ann Arbor every year, every summer. So I'm gearing up for that, getting a lot of new artwork done. I haven't created as much as I would like during the winter months. I moved into a new studio in November, and so getting acquainted to a new studio, I didn't realize would be as difficult as it was. Just getting used to creating in a new space. So now that I'm in here, I just been working on, I have a lot of ideas that has built up over the time that I want to start creating a few new collections. I just did an interview for PBS, WBGU PBS in Ohio. And they came out here and filmed my house. And so I'm going to be on TV on PBS. So that's exciting. And that should air around June or July.
Oh, yeah. Well, we'll want to hear about that because even if it's after the summit has launched, we can still add the link in later so that people can find it.
Oh, awesome. Yeah, definitely. And then as I've been working on making new pattern collections, I just launched a collaboration with Geometry. They make towels of all kinds, tea towels, bath towels, beach towels, and they make them out of recycled plastic bottles. And so that's been really fun to be able to work with them and to see some of my patterns come together on their work, on their towels that are great too. They're very absorbent towels.
And great.
Yeah, thank you.
So how do you do, like, was it because of your experience before with Surface Pattern, you've just been able to make relationships with these different companies that you can continue on creating new lines with them?
Well, so because I started off with Surface Pattern Design, I was building my brand around that for such a long time. I only had like a few licensing deals in the past. So it's actually something that's fairly new, and they found me on Instagram. They reached out to me. But I've been working on building my brand so that I can share the artwork that I want to share and not and let people know that, hey, people like this stuff. They'll still buy it. So it's profitable for you to collaborate with me type deal.
I love that's a really important point, is that you continued to build the work that you wanted until you were established enough that they came and asked for what you wanted, rather than always creating for whatever the call to action is, because it changes the whole energy of what you're making when it's like, okay, well, they're looking for bunnies for Easter. Now I got to paint bunnies. Like, no one really wants to have to create that way. Some people do because that is their job. And like, yeah, you at least get to do something creative. But I love that's such an important point, that keep creating the work that you love to make. And eventually that then you get to make what you love when you're selling it, when you're collaborations, surface design, whatever it is, then it's your voice that's shining through. So that's a really good point, that you stuck with that so that they knew.
Yeah, it was a long journey. And of course, I a lot of sleepless nights. I still did my full-time day job while doing, artwork on the side.
Yeah.
So it takes a lot of balance of family time. I don't have kids, so it's just me. So I know there's a lot of other factors that people have to take in consideration when trying to, do that as well.
Yeah, exactly. But we all find our path sooner or later. We figure out what works best for us. But I've always encouraged artists to stick with their vision and their voice and keep honing in on it. Because the longer you do it, the more recognizable your work is, like your work, which is very recognizable. If anybody hasn't already started following Sareka, is it Sareka Unique on Instagram?
Yes, Sareka Unique everywhere. Unique is my middle name. So when I started painting being creative, I was like, I'm just gonna go with Sareka Unique.
Well, that's Kelly Wynn is my middle name too. I think that women do that. Like, we want our alter egos, but not too far from our real ego. Like, it's good. All right, I have one last question. I love to ask this for everyone I get to interview for the podcast, and because I find it really fun and inspiring to dream big. But what is your big audacious dream for your future?
I have so many. No.
Give them all to me. I mean, we're not in a big rush to get off here, because if you got some good wild ideas, we want to hear.
I do want to paint bigger. I'm hoping to do a mural at least sometime this year. I've applied for a couple, mural contests. That's something that's really been on my heart, is to paint bigger in a more public space. So my artwork is so bold and happy that I think it would benefit people to be able to walk by and just be inspired by it. I also would like to have my own like public studio space slash like gift shop. That's been one of my big goals for a really long time. So that's probably the biggest one.
That's a great one.
Having a brick and mortar space where people can come in and not only buy things that have my design and artwork, but also other artists and designers. Yeah.
And not necessarily as a studio space, but more as like a all kinds of creative items, like gift type items.
Yeah, like gift and home decor. I really have a heart for home decor. I love making a beautiful home.
Yeah.
Pillows, I have way too many. And,
Great though. So then if anyone wanted to make their home brighter and more colorful and beautiful, then I'm assuming if they go to SarekaUnique.com, they'll be able to purchase some stuff, right?
Yes, I have home decor. I have blankets, pillows. I have like a connection to like my Spoonflower shop where you can get a lot of different home decor items, wallpaper, fabric. You can do curtains, all of that kind of good stuff.
That's awesome. I love it. And I am just so excited for you to be in the Virtual Art Summit, and I appreciate it so much. So Sareka Unique everywhere on Instagram and her website. Go check it out. Of course, we will be linking everything in the show notes and in the Virtual Art Summit. So thank you for joining me. It has been such a pleasure to meet you and to talk to you, Sareka.
Thank you, Kelly. Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to share my course and to meet everyone and talk to people who have taken the course and see what they create.
Yes. All right. Awesome. Talk to you soon.
Talk to you soon. Bye.